Hey guys, this is Lo with the Info Gear channel. So what I have here today is my Leatherman Surge. It's been very faithfully serving me for many years already, and I've actually had to disassemble, clean, re-grease and reassemble quite a few times already since then. Now you've got the safety or the security torques, which actually Leatherman has put in place so that you don't disassemble it, and I generally don't advise that you disassemble it, especially if you're not sure what you're doing or you're not handy with tools. Don't do it. You actually might void the warranty. I'm not sure if it does, but if you know how to put it, if you know how to take it apart and you know how to put it back, and you really needed to service something, and maybe Leatherman service is not readily available for you in your country, like it is here in Malaysia, then this can actually help you. Or if you disassembled it and you're not sure how to put it back, then I hope this video helps you out. So the few tools that we're going to need today, I'm not sure if I'm going to need to use everything, but I've got a torque set here. This is one by Weha. It's got the safety Torx bits in here. It's the one with the pin in the center of the Torx. I've also got some grease, some Battleborn grease. This is from Breakthrough Clean. Now, Breakthrough Clean products actually make cleaning and oiling lubricants for firearms mostly. And they've also got this PTFE grease that actually works really well with the Leatherman tools and some other tools as well. So we'll be using this, quite a bit of it. Another Leatherman. This is in case I really need to torque some bits, okay, or I need to hold other bits in place. What happens is it's got a tube in the center, so you have to hold one side down and torque the other side to undo the screw. And that's the same for, I think, all the screws that hold all the pivots together. Light if you need to see something clear. Cloth, some alcohol just to clean up the tool, and that's pretty much it. Alright, so let's get into it. We're going to disassemble it first. After that, we're going to clean it, grease it, and put it together. So if you notice that it was actually very easy for me to remove one side of the screw, is because I'm actually pressing up against this side. And as I've mentioned before, I've actually had to take this apart a few times in the past just to service it. So it's not overly tight, and I make sure I greased it up so the screws don't bind together and they don't get stuck. Take note that there's one washer here, or one set washers here on the other side, and this is for the jigsaw holder. For the serrated blade side, you've only got the pair of washers on the inside facing the pivot. Just gonna push this out, pull this true. Alright, so all the main tools on the outside of the Leatherman, they all individually have a set of, I think these are bronze phosphor washers or copper washers, I'm not exactly sure. So then after that, what happens is you can just pull it right off the jaw, just like that. Okay, simple. Okay, I'm gonna set the outside tools aside, and we're gonna work on the inside here. Just remember, the side with the removable bit belongs to the side with the scissors, okay? And also another thing to remember, this is where the ruler starts, where the centimeter ruler starts. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So we know which side is which, because other than that, both sides are actually pretty much identical. I'm not sure if you could swap these tools out with the other side, but again, they're roughly the same thickness. And I'm pretty sure if I wanted to, I could swap them both out. Okay, so let's just not get confused. I don't suppose it does actually affect the performance of the tool, but I do like to put it back exactly how I found it, in case it does actually affect performance or reliability. Alright, so the other side of the screw is actually spinning in place, which is where the other Leatherman comes in handy. Obviously, if you don't have two Leathermans, you could just use another plier. If you do find that the screws are a little bit tight, which they can very well be, especially on the new tool, then you might want some help from a friend who will be able to hold the other side for you as you try to torque one side down. Okay. we go, that's one side. Alright, so as you're looking on the outside of the tool, we'll just use this for reference. You will notice that for the covers, the end covers, one side has a deeper notch than the other. So the deeper notch, as you're looking at the outside of the tool, the deeper notch is going to be on your left, okay? And generally that's the side that I let the pivot go in from. Yep, so this one's also moving freely. I guess it would have been nice if it was captive, but I suppose there might have been some issues in how the tool would deploy, and it would add to the complexity of the tool, maybe increasing costs, etc., etc. Okay, so one interesting thing to note, as you are looking from the inside of the tool on this side, you're gonna have this. This is actually a lanyard clip. This is not a listed feature on the website, at least it wasn't when I first got this. You can actually pull it up, and you've got a ring which allows you to put a lanyard hook to it. So it's on this side of the tool, on this particular side of the handle. Again, the side with the deeper notch, the pivot's going to come out from that side. Tools, of course, all come out. Okay, just going to lay it down here. That's it. So this is a completely disassembled Leatherman. It's pretty simple, isn't it? It wasn't when I first did this. It's actually really complicated. Scratching my head and everything. Alright, so now that we've cleaned it up, what we're going to do is we're going to put it all back together. And while we're doing that, of course, we're going to grease it up. All the metal and metal contacts. Now, just a little tip, especially if you're using the black oxide versions, where you see the black oxide being removed, that's pretty much where a lot of contact's happening. You can actually grease that part up, and hopefully it'll make your tool a little bit smoother and probably a little bit more reliable, less likely to stick. Alright, so the way we're positioning it right now is these tools, the inner tools, the pivot's down here. Now, the longest one, the awl, is going to be on the far right, followed by the really big flathead, and then only the small flathead. Now, if you mix this up and you put the awl in the center, it's going to get caught up on that little notch over there. Not sure if you can see that, this thing, right? Because it's a lot longer. And as mentioned earlier, we're going to put the pivot in from this side, which means this is going to be the first tool to go in, followed by this guy and this guy. So first things first, we're going to grease them up so that we don't have to worry about it while we have our hands full later on. And also one part that I might have missed out while disassembling is that you'll have these metal washers. I think they're steel washers. And what happens is they'll come in on both sides of the tools, running along this guy. So I've got the end cap with the deeper notch. I'm going to put the pivot through that first, like that. Okay. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pivot part in, not all the way, just a little bit. I'm going to put pressure on the side here. This is just to put the pivot in there and hold it in place. And we're of course going to take one washer, let's put it over the top. You can use one of the other tools just to push the washer down, like that. You can push it up a little bit more. Put the first tool in, let it set. Of course, it feels a little bit tight. You can press a lock bar on the back, kind of make some space for the tool to go in. And we'll put in the second one, which is again the larger flathead. Kind of push it down on the tool. Now occasionally you might push the pivot all the way by accident. Just back it out a little bit. Grab your last tool, align it, and push the pivot through. Now, once it's true, like it is now, you can kind of look through the gap at the end, because we still have one more washer to put in. You can just pull it back a little bit, so that it's still holding onto the awl. And you're going to push this through, like this. So you can see that the washer is over there. You can use your screw and pull it into place. And align it, use it, just move it around, align it with the pivot. Alright, just put a little bit of pressure on the back. And it will push through like this with the washer in the correct position, and everything should pretty much work properly. Alright, so once that's true, everything's pretty much aligned. Take your grease, just apply a little bit on the top here, because we're going to put the lanyard ring here. Goes there. Okay. The protrusion is going to be on your right as you're looking at this section. Of course, we're going to take the end cap, put it over, take your screw, and just tighten it down. Alright, so you reach a point where, that's nice, you reach a point where you're trying to screw it down, but of course it's moving on the other side. Again, that's where this Leatherman comes in. Spare pliers, hold the other bit, hold it in place, just tighten it down. Now, don't tighten it too much. You don't want to torque it all the way. You want the tools to still be able to move. We'll just test that. So they move fairly easily. It's not super loose. You don't want it to be too loose, because if it was too loose and it was in a close position, a little bit of movement and it'll all just fly out. You don't want that to happen. But you don't want it so difficult for you to pull out that you break your nails. I know it's who cares about breaking nails, right? But it can actually lead to injury, so you don't want that to happen either. You want your tools to be easily accessible. Okay, so for the other side, the bit driver is on the right side and the can opener is on the left side. As we mentioned before, if you're looking at it from the back, the top side of the back, you're going to want to choose the end cap with a deeper notch. Alright, again, before we get there, I'm going to use our Battleborn grease. Just apply a little bit here and here. Just grease it up. Normally, if you had to grease your tool up from the outside, you're not going to be able to really get into the small crevices, especially since it's packed tightly together. So now's your opportunity to do it well. Just not forget to just put some grease on the O-rings. Got a little bit left over on my fingers. That should suffice. So again, as we're looking at from this side with the notch, it's going to go like that. Deeper notch. Okay. Just hold it in place. Put the O-rings through. If it's not seating, because it kind of sticks to your finger, right? Just use your tool, push it back down. Sits nicely like that. So we'll put the can opener in first. Again, if you're having trouble putting it in, it might be because you're being blocked by the lock side, so kind of disengage it with your index finger and you'll make some space for movement for your tool. So I'm going to back it out a little bit so we can make space for this guy. Not enough. Just a bit, not too much. Here we go. Enough that it's still holding onto your can opener. Just push this through. Like this. So same as the previous one, we still have one more washer to push through, so we're just gonna pull it back out a little bit until we've got enough space just to push this through like that. Okay, again I'm gonna use my driver to kind of get the hole in there right. And now it's centered. Apply pressure. Just move that a bit in as well. There you go. It's come true. Okay, with your O-ring in there, of course. So this side you don't have the you don't have the lanyard ring. You can do is just put a bit of grease here as well. Anyway. Bit on here, just because. I suppose you don't have to in certain cases, but I'm going to anyway. Why not? All right, stopped. It's rotating again. Feel like you've torqued it down a little bit too much, just back it out a bit. You can fine tune it accordingly. So that's it's free dropping. We don't really want that. I mean, if it was on a high-end dedicated folding knife, then it's fine. But this is just your everyday tool. Having it free drop like that can actually be annoying. It still moves easy. Just test it by pulling it out. Okay, just so long as it's not too difficult, it should be fine. Okay, so that's good. I like that. Okay, so next comes the slightly more complicated part. We are going to put these tools back in and plier at the same time because they do share the same pivot. So the side that has the removable bit driver is on the left and the others is on the right, obviously. The one that has the bit driver again has the scissors and the serrated blade. So if we were to look at it like this in the deployed position, the scissors is going to be up here and the serrated blade is going to be on the other side. For this side, you're going to have the knife on this side and the jig saw on the other side. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do the right side first. You can do either side, but I'm just going to do the right side first. So what you need to do is you need to prepare the tool for the other side. Now, when you're aligning the tool, make sure that when the blade is closed, that the sharp end does go into the recess of the blade. If you did it the other way around, and it is possible for you to do that on certain tools, the blade's going to be facing out. That's dangerous. Okay, you don't want to cut yourself. So we're just gonna get it like this. Saw's gonna be like that, right? This, just gonna show you how this all looks like. What happens is this sleeve goes over here and it opens up like this, and your saw goes in like that. And when the sleeve closes back down again, this little part here is attached to the outside, like that. And this protrusion acts as something like a detent that actually locks everything in place so that it doesn't slip out accidentally. I think prior to this, they didn't actually have this, and they relied entirely on friction to prevent the sleeve from opening up and letting the tool loose. I think that's on the previous generation. Okay. Okay, don't forget to grease your tool. Just a little bit goes a long way. Don't have to use a whole lot. Okay, so as we observed, when we disassemble the tool, you'll have one washer on the outside, like this. Have another one, just put some residual grease on there, put it in there. Okay, all right, so now that that's prepared, we're gonna put some grease in here. This is what gives some tension to the plier head so that the handle doesn't flip out too much. Just gonna apply a bit of grease. Again, these are pretty much torsion bars, and if your fingers are too fat like mine to get in there, you can use a Q-tip to kind of distribute it. Of course, dab it lightly. You don't want any of the cotton fibers to get out. Alright, for this assembly, I like to have the pliers and the handle in a closed position. And the reason for that is if we were to do it with the pliers and the handle in the open position, the springs are going to actually be spread aside. If we do it this way, then the springs can be left at rest, and we won't have to fiddle around with trying to push the springs aside, and we won't accidentally damage the tool either. Oh, one thing before I forget to mention, as far as I know, you can install the plier head either way, it's the same. Once you've pushed that in like that, you kind of want to align the head a little bit. You might need to apply a bit of pressure before you put pivot in there. Okay, this might take a little bit of fiddling. There we go. Okay, and you can keep the tool in the closed position. What that helps you do is it helps keep the lock spring compressed, and pretty much it's not going to move around too much. Alright, so now we'll do the other side, which is the knife side. And in this one, you'll actually have 2 washers on the inside. So again, just put a little bit of residual grease on there. It's gonna be sticky, of course. Okay. A bit of grease on the blade. Again, remember that when the tool closes, the blade has to be on the inside, so this is the orientation. You're gonna need to push the pivot on this side so that it locks up. And you can feel the spring engage with the lock on the blade as we leave it open. You can grab the pivot screw, screw it in, and if the knife falls out like that, don't worry about it. Just tighten it down a bit. Okay. Alright, occasionally what might happen as you're screwing this in is you'll obviously notice that the pivot's not completely tightened down, but it doesn't want to move anymore. Now what's happening is, as you're tightening the screw down on it, the tool isn't actually through the post like that. It's just resting on the side, okay? And you've got the screw. I'm trying to illustrate it here for you. Basically, it's off to the side like this, and you're pinching the top of the pivot bar with a screw, okay? And it's not actually going through. Let me see if I can get a proper picture of this. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to loosen it up a bit, let the tool rest down, and then only continue tightening it down. Okay, you don't want to force anything. If you feel like it's not moving as it should, something's wrong and you need to readjust. Okay, so I'm just gonna readjust there a bit. There we go. At this point, if you feel like the tool is not tight enough, you can always put the bit on the other side with the Leatherman, with another pair of pliers. Kind of torque it down a little bit. As it is right now, this feels pretty good. It's not too tight. I'm not getting any play, no wobble. Perfect. So I'm just gonna leave it as it is. It's probably gonna make it easier for me to disassemble in the future as well. Okay, so we're gonna do the other side, pretty much repeating the process on this side. And we'll do a complete functions test of the entire tool after this, of course. So we've already greased this up. Let's put this on. All right, as for the first side, the tool that is on the other side of the jigsaw is going to be the serrated blade. Okay, let's grease that up. Grease up the washers as well. Don't run away. Bit of grease on that. So the orientation of the serrated blade is going to be like this. So pivot goes in first, followed by the 2 washers. Okay. And of course, pliers already in place. Shift it around a bit. Go. So using your tool to kind of align the pivot hole of the plier as well as the handle is actually really useful. So I advise you do that. Next, of course, is going to be the scissors. Let's grease it up a bit here. Again, you can use your Q-tip to kind of spread it out. Apply some grease out here as well, both sides. Alright, so after you grease that up, a little bit of residual grease on the washers. Alright, so for the scissors, you'll notice that there are 2 recesses here and here, and it corresponds with the nubs on the torsion bar here and here. So before putting the scissors in, what I like to do is I like to, of course, open up the scissors because it will engage the spring. You'll put the torsion bar on where the recesses are, let it line up, it should correspond nicely. kind of line up the holes, and then you're gonna push this in, and you can kind of let it lock on the liner lock. Hold it in place, get your screw, kind of move it in your hands first. While holding the scissors. If you're afraid of getting cut with your serrated blade, I do advise you close that, stow it away before you do this section. Just tighten it down. Test the spring, see if it works. It does work nicely. Of course, release it. The scissors should close up nicely. And of course, when you're going to keep your tool, the scissors being the thickest and most complicated of the whole lot, next to the saw, of course. When you close it, you don't want it to hit the body. So if it's hitting the body, that means something's not in alignment. Okay, as usual, we're just gonna test for play. There's no play. Scissors, there's no play either. Again, as with the first side, you can hand tighten it. That's what I like to do. I don't like this side of the tools getting too tight. That's pretty much it. So we're just gonna install this here. Let that lock, pull the sleeve down. Okay, it's hard to disengage because, as I mentioned before, there's a little bit of a spring going in there, and it prevents the thing from opening up without you putting a little bit more force out of it. So you can actually install the saw both ways, either facing left or facing right. Just remember that when you close the tool, you want the saw to be inside the recess. It's going to be in this orientation, like this. It's kept. Now, just for purpose of showing you the wrong way of installing this, I'm going to put the saw in the wrong direction. You can actually do it, but of course, the saw blade is going to be facing out. I suppose most of it's going to get covered, but there's a little exposed section here, which can be dangerous. And normally when you do close your tool, you do put your thumb up against it and push it closed, so don't do it. You can put any Bosch jigsaw in here as well. You don't exactly have to use the original Leatherman ones. There you go. Okay, so let's continue with the functions test. The Bosch jigsaw worked. The scissors works, locks up nicely. Scissors works, knife works, of course. The lock does not disengage. There's no play. The serrated blade as well does not have any play. The lock engages up nicely. It only closes when you disengage it. The liner lock opens up easy. This is another part. If your spring's a little bit too loose, when you do this, what happens is the handle's gonna basically open up, and it makes for annoying use of the tool. Okay, so this comes out. It doesn't just freely move. You don't want that to happen either. This comes out and goes back in. Goes in easy. Let's check the locking. Okay, locks up. Check the locking for the other one. So when you have one engaged and you pop another one up, it disengages the lock, allows you to swap your tools. Like that. Alright. Good lock up. Easy to pull out. First tool, locks up properly. Second one locks up properly. Third one also locks up properly. Okay, so the final part, if you actually wanted to, you could just unscrew this and the bits can come out. You can grease it up in there just to prevent rusting from happening. I kind of did this like last week, so I'm not too worried about that. It's not been anywhere near moisture, so I'm not gonna do it, but it's actually very easy. You just unscrew it, it comes right out, put the grease in, and voila, you're done. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the complete disassembly, cleaning, re-greasing with Battleborn grease, and reassembly of the Leatherman surge. Again, I advise you do not do this, but if you already have and you're having trouble putting your tool back together, or again, if you do not have ready access to Leatherman's customer support service and you really don't care about the warranty and you need to do it yourself, then by all means, give it a go. Alright, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and our video. Do share this video with your friends. Some of them might have actually already messed up and disassembled their tools and aren't exactly sure how to put them back. Anyways, you guys stay safe and stay sharp out there. I will catch you all in the next video.